Good afternoon, Wilson parents and students and the Wilson community. My name is Tim Carter, Superintendent of Wilson Central School District. And these are messages and updates for Thursday, January 28th, 2021. Got a couple updates and messages as regards to reopening, reevaluation of reopening, COVID-19, and all sorts of protocols and changes. So I wanted to send a message out to you. If you have any questions or comments about this video, it'll be on the district website if you want to view it again, or you can call the district clerk, Mrs. Pavan, at 751-9399. It should be more than welcome to get your message to me, or give me a message to call you back with whatever update or any question you have. So let me start out with a general update for COVID-19. As of today, Thursday, January 28th, 2021, at about 1 o'clock, I looked at the Niagara County website, and Niagara County reported 12,038 positive cases since March 2020 of COVID-19, with 199 in the town of Wilson, 63 in the village of Wilson. Currently, the Niagara County Department of Health is reporting 1,759 active cases. That's lower than last week. So either people are no longer positive for COVID-19, even though some more are. The number of positive cases this week is a little bit lower than the number of positive cases in Niagara County last week. Of that 1,759, there's 47 in the town and village of Wilson, which is about the same I reported at Tuesday's board workshop, if you had an opportunity to view that. Our numbers are starting to slowly decrease after the holiday surge. Currently, we have a total of 45 positive cases affecting students and staff in the Wilson school community. That's students and staff of Wilson, and that's 45 since the beginning of the school year. Of the 45, 31 were student cases and 14 were staff cases. And using January 1st as the cutoff, we had 10 positive cases in the district prior to January 1st, 10 cases. 9 of them were at the high school, middle school, 1 was at the elementary, and it was a mix of staff and students. And then since January 1st, we've had 35. And of that 35, 20 of them have been at the elementary. So we did have a bit of a surge at the elementary, which caused us to put the elementary on full remote for 2 weeks. And that 2 weeks ends tomorrow, January 29th, and the elementary students returned. As my message said yesterday that I sent out, the elementary students are going to return to in-person instruction Monday, February 1st, 2021, unless you meet one of those categories that I sent out yesterday, and then you need to stay on remote and call the school nurse. So those are my general updates and introductions for COVID-19. We've done 2 surveys, one staff survey and one parent survey. We've anticipated sending out a student survey, and we still plan on doing that and make some adjustments as we move through the second half of this year. But these surveys take a while to get together, and more importantly, they take a while to look at the data and make decisions based upon that information. We've taken the information from the survey and made some adjustments to our reopening, which I'll talk about in a moment. I've reported out the surveys at board meetings, so you can take a look at those. The next topic is athletics. There's a lot going on with athletics in the last couple of days. This past Friday, the governor gave the okay for high-risk sports to begin, starting February 1st. Our section that Wilson belongs to has been doing another number of meetings and another number of votes, and that information is still coming out. I'm waiting for it all to settle out, and then I'll send out an update. Either myself or Mr. Roth will send out an update about athletics. But there is an expectation for athletics to begin Monday, February 1st. Specifically for Wilson, it's basketball. The section has made some decisions about moving wrestling back a little bit into the spring. Again, I'll have Mr. Roth send out an update to the sports parents so they know what's going on. So that's athletics. Testing. We're a full testing site if we need it. We had a little bit of a blip where one of our programs, our pre-K at St. Peter's, fell into a yellow zone, and we had to do a round of testing there, but we did not have to do any testing at the middle school or the high school or at Wilson Elementary School, except for the preschool students down at St. Peter's, and we also did some testing to assist the vocational program at Orleans Niagara BOCES. Now that the governor has lifted the yellow and orange zone, as long as we stay out of the yellow and orange zones, we will not need to do testing. So that'll be put to the side. Update on vaccines for students. Those students that would like to take a vaccine, they're still in action. We're waiting for that phase of population to be able to get the vaccine. Right now it's phase 1A and 1B, in which educators are able to get their vaccines. Some of the teachers haven't been able to. It's been crazy. There's been slowness in the distribution of vaccines. So if I have any updates for the parents on when students are able to start getting vaccines, I'll get that information out to you. Right now, I just don't have any. Some reminders for reopening in COVID-19 and maybe some different adjustments. This first one is, you may have experienced this, so if your child is symptomatic of one of the symptoms of COVID-19 and you're being told that you need to go see a doctor, just keep in mind there are two types of COVID tests out there. If your doctor sends you for a COVID test, or if the school says you need to return with a COVID test negative result, there are two types of tests out there. There's an antigen test, thank you, and a PCR test. The antigen test is sort of to determine if a group of people are positive, okay? So it is really good at determining positive if people are positive. And if you do not have any symptoms, it's also fairly accurate in determining negative. However, if you have symptoms, there's a lot of mistakes in it. So the Department of Health has asked and has given us the direction that if a staff member or a student is symptomatic and gets a rapid antigen test, they come back negative, they have to then go get the PCR. So keep that in mind if you're talking to the nurses. It's not something the nurses just pulling out of their hat. It's not something that the administrators are just making up. This is all stuff that we've been told that we have to do in order to return you back to school. So ask a lot of questions up front if you're being told that your child needs to go get a clearance to return, or if your child needs a test to return, or go see their personal care physician. Ask a lot of questions up front so you have all the information you need for your child to return. Second one, with the uptick of the current last 3 weeks or 4 weeks since January 1st, we have been holding pretty strong to if one of your members of the household becomes symptomatic, the entire household should not be here in school. So this impact for you is going to be in the morning, if you have a child that's sick, a family member that's sick, someone who's symptomatic of COVID-19 or positive for COVID-19, that entire family should stay home. If they're symptomatic, the entire family should stay home until the test is taken, and if the results are negative, the child and the family can return back to school. If the tests are positive, the entire family would be quarantined by the Department of Health at that point. But keep that in mind. So if you are, or someone in your family is symptomatic, there's a question on the COVID screen that says if you're around anyone who's symptomatic or is suspected of having COVID-19, and you check yes, you need to stay home that day, okay? Or until that person is no longer symptomatic or that person has been cleared to return. So the other thing that's a change that you may exhibit is if, we've been doing this since January, that we returned, because we really didn't have a lot of cases. We didn't have a lot of sibling cases and things like that. But if one sibling is symptomatic, we've been sending the other sibling home also from school. So keep that in mind. You may have a child at the elementary school, middle school, and high school. If one of them becomes symptomatic, the entire household can no longer answer that question, no, that they haven't been around someone who's symptomatic. Therefore, the entire family has to go home. And I know that's a pain in the neck, but it's also what we've been doing to try and keep our school and our students as safe as possible. This next one has to do with any parent that has a student that is been diagnosed as COVID positive. The American Pediatrics Association has determined that if a student or child is symptomatic of COVID-19, is test positive, not symptomatic, is tested positive for COVID-19, they have to get further evaluations to determine if they have any lingering or long-lasting effects of COVID-19. So, that being said, our school physician has determined that any of our students that are COVID-19 positive, they need to get released by their pediatrician to return to sports, to physical education, and to play, which for us at the elementary is recess. So if your child has been your child has tested positive for COVID-19, the nurse should have contacted you by now. If not, they will be. The school principal may send out either a Blackboard Connect message, an email, or one of those Dojo messages in order to contact you and let you know that release has to be had. Depending on the level where your child has been at, if they were positive and asymptomatic, the pediatrician may be able to clear them. If they're symptomatic or have serious symptoms, they may have to see a pediatric cardiologist in order to release them in order to go back to sports. They're just finding some long-term effects for sports, phys ed, and recess that they want to make sure that are not there prior to the student returning back to those activities. Next one, please. So if your child has tested positive, we're asking that you call the school. We've heard through some parents that the Department of Health, when they go to the Niagara County site or one of the Department of Health sites, those people are saying that the Department of Health is contacting the schools when and if the person is positive. That has not been the case. I have only been contacted out of all 45 cases one time from the Department of Health. The rest of them I've either heard from the staff member themselves or from the parent. So if you, in the last 3 to 4 weeks, have tested, or your child has tested positive for COVID-19, and the district doesn't know about it, please contact the school nurse, because we want to make sure that first we have an accurate record of them, and more importantly, we are able to get those releases to make sure that your child is safe to return to sports, PE, and recess. And the final reminder is travel. As we know, I don't make the guidelines, the New York State Department of Health does, and the governor does for COVID-19, and there is a travel guidance. And I know February break is coming up, and if you're planning on traveling out of state for February break, please contact your building administrator. There are guidelines that have to be followed in order for your child to return to school afterwards. If you follow the travel guidelines, there's 2 screenings that have to be done, 2 tests that have to be done, and a mandatory short quarantine. And if those aren't done, then there's a longer quarantine that has to happen. But please make sure you contact your school administrator so they know that A, you're traveling out of state, and more importantly, that we know that you're going to be following those guidelines when you return. Okay, the next topic on the list is COVID-19 reopening adjustments that we're going to be making. So based upon the survey, based upon conversations with the Board of Education, teachers, parents, all of those, the reopening committee met, all of that information was taken in, and we're going to be making a couple adjustments to our reopening. Some are easy adjustments, some are going to be a little bit more difficult, but we're going to make these adjustments in order to have a little smoother transition to the end of the year. I mentioned this back in September end of August and September, that we would take a moment at the end of the first semester and reevaluate where we're at and make some adjustments. So here's that time frame. Again, if you have any questions about these adjustments, please call me 751-9399, and I'll be glad to get that info, take your question and deal with your concern. So here's the adjustment. The first one is the COVID screen. Before I get into all this, along with this video that I'm going to send out, there's going to be a letter with the delineation of these adjustments. So the first one's a COVID screen. The student and staff COVID screen is going to be shortened. The information's going to still be there, all the information we need for you to come in safely. But we just find on our end, when we're looking at the the list of all the questions, it's difficult to look through. We got to keep scrolling back and forth, and we don't want to miss anybody. So we made a little bit more of a user-friendly on your end of a COVID screen, not as long, and a little more user-friendly on our end, so we can make sure that all of our students and staff have taken a screen and answered no to all the questions. So that has already started. And there's still adjustments that are being made based upon some questions the parents have been having about our adjustments. So that will continue over the next week or so. But by the end of next week, we should have a pretty solid updated COVID-19 screen. Again, that screen needs to be taken every single day. The next one is remote asynchronous Wednesdays. As you know, right now, grades 6 through 12 have remote asynchronous Wednesdays. It allows us to do some deep cleaning in between cohorts. And we have found after we started the school year, it was very difficult to keep up with the collaboration, the planning, and keep up with both remote instruction and in-person instruction for our elementary teachers, staff. So we started putting some half days in, and we started doing some full days. And I want to be a little bit more consistent. So to do that, starting next week, next Wednesday, February 3rd, we're going to start remote Wednesdays for the entire district, pre-K through 12. So it'll be remote asynchronous. For some parents, this is not going to be an issue. I understand for other parents, it's going to be an issue. I apologize up front, but there's a number of reasons for it. One reason is it allows the teachers, gives them the proper time to plan and prepare for both remote and for in-person instruction. Every one of our teachers are working in two buckets. They are working with the students that are in front of them, and they're working with the students that are remote. And we have found that that's not as easy as it sounds. So the planning, the correcting, the collaboration with special area teachers, the collaboration with service providers, we need that time in order to make sure we're doing what's best for students. So the work on Wednesdays is going to be asynchronous. So one reason is for the planning and preparation, collaboration for our teachers. It also does offer the students a bit less screen time. It also gives them some time to catch up on some work that they may need to catch up that they haven't turned in. And it also gives us an all-important day at the elementary school for deep cleaning. Even though we're not changing cohorts, it does give us a chance to deep clean every part of the classrooms, and allows our custodial staff to get into classrooms also. So those are the first two items. The next one is some attendance support at the high school and middle school. We've shifted some support staff personnel into the high school in order to better keep track of our students, both remote and in person. We just have an influx of kids that are both remote, in person, coming in and out, and it's been difficult to keep track of when they're in. And there's a huge correlation between students attending their remote classes, attending their in-person classes, and doing well. The students that are popping out of the classes or choosing not to enter into the classes are not doing as well on their grades. So it is our job to make sure you're there, and more importantly, it's our job to be able to communicate to the parents at the middle school and high school if the child has chose not to be there that day. So that communication is getting better, and we're starting to be able to let parents know if their child's not attending in-person classes or not attending remote classes throughout the entire day. The next item that we're going to do some adjustments on is our safety protocol. It was evident from our survey that we needed to do some work with our students. The majority of our students and staff are following safety protocols, but we do have a small contingent of people that are not. So I've asked the administrators to put a video together and allow the teachers to show this video about what is the appropriate safety protocols for COVID-19, mask wearing, social distancing, our movement around the halls, up and down stairs, and things like that, and remind parents and remind students of that. And then more importantly, I've asked teachers to stop students that are not following safety protocols, give them a redirection, and if they're going to continually not do it, turn it into a discipline referral, because it is an expectation that all students follow our safety protocols. Online expectations, very similar. Part of the same video, the administrators are going to give a little update on what the online expectations are for students. They need to be working at home just the way they're working in school, paying attention, staying online, not popping in and out, keeping their camera on, all those things that the teachers are expecting them to do. I'm asking the administrators to go ahead and please give that direction and give that reminder to the students. And again, I'm asking the teachers to make sure that you're monitoring that, correcting students, sending message to the parents, and then in the end, if the child is continuing that, then that is also a discipline referral. Excuse me. We're going to do the same thing with staff reminders. Staff, just as important in this process. We model the expectations for the children, so the administrators are going to remind the staff of these protocols also. Communication from the district. It was evident from our survey from parents and staff that we needed to increase our updates. We did pretty well during the summer and at the beginning of September, but COVID updates started to wane off a little bit as the school year started and we all got busy. I'm going to try and make sure I'm doing these bi-weekly. So this is my first one. I think I did one 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm going to try from here to do bi-weekly updates, hopefully not as long as this one. But these updates are going to be up to the individual if you want to view it. I'm going to send them out every 2 weeks. If you choose to view it, I wish you would. If you choose not to, you don't have to. Some academic support. Our middle school and high school students, some of our kids are struggling. And it's not something we didn't expect. When you only have kids come to school 2 times out of a 5-day week, you expect them to struggle a little bit on their work. So we're going to put some supports in place. The middle school, high school. The high school specifically is going to begin an academic intervention program. Parents, you may have already been updated about that. That's going to start very soon. And then the middle school is beginning, starting with 7th grade, beginning a peer mentoring program, a mentoring program where teachers are going to work with individual students that are struggling in order to help keep them updated and get them up to speed as much as possible at work. At the social emotional level, we currently have a mental health specialist, only a number of 1 day per week. We have asked ON BOCES, where we get our mental health specialist from. We've asked them to increase that number to more days. So as soon as we're able to do that, we'll update that and increase that number for our mental health supports, but also for social emotional support and also for social work support, because families at home need services and we need to connect them to the services that are important. I ask that if any parent knows if their child's struggling or any student is struggling, please reach out to the school counselor. We do have supports in place. Reach out to your teacher. Teachers reach out to the counselors. We do have some supports in place to be able to assist you. Other adjustments other things that were mentioned in the survey that we are working on adjustment-wise is, there was definitely a statement by parents and staff about increasing in-person attendance for students. Right now, we're at our capacity, both at the high school, middle school, but also at the elementary school. So while we've had some students turning in and out, I do not have the ability to wholesale bring the entire middle school back, the entire high school back, or even a portion of them back. It's just not something that the guidelines are going to allow me to do. As soon as I get the indication that we can return to full in-person, I'll be the first one to get that message out to parents and to staff that we're going to return to in-person. But right now, our guidelines are not going to allow it. There was both staff and parents indicated the need to create more fun activities for students, both sports and other social activities, and I know that I've communicated that to the building principals, and they're going to reach out to staff and students, the student council, to see what can be created. I've already mentioned that sports are going to be starting, so my hope is that there's going to be some more things for kids to do, specifically after school, some things for them to look at, to look forward to. New York State assessments, grades 3 to 8, and the Regents exams. I can tell you that update. As of right now, New York State Department of Education has sent a petition to, or is planning to send a petition and a waiver to the U.S. Department of Education to ask for relief from doing those assessments this year. That is a federal requirement. Grades 3 through 8 and the Regents exams are a federal requirement. So they're asking for a waiver to not have them do them this year. I don't know where that's going to go. Right now on the Department of Ed, New York State Department of Education website, there is a comment section, and they're going to take comments for a week or so. If you would like to log in and make those comments, please do. But I'm expecting New York State Department of Ed to send that waiver very soon, and we'll hear what happens on Regents exams. More information to come. One of the misnomers that we have to make sure students understand and parents understand. We don't know what they're gonna do with Regents exams, but we have to keep moving forward as if Regents exams are gonna be there. Same with the New York State assessments. This school year is not like last school year. We're gonna run to the end of the school year. Grades have been taken, work has been assigned, in-person and remote instruction is continuing. Work has been assigned to students. Students that are completing the assignments are passing. There's no magic wand at the end of this rainbow. So it's very important that if your child's struggling, you need to make sure that you're making contact with the teachers, figuring out what they need to do in order to be successful. Because a lot of it has to do with the student just not wanting to put forth the effort to get it done. So it's important for everyone to understand that there's no magic bullet at the end of this. In the spring, we basically stopped taking grades. And the reason we did that is we were not ready for remote instruction back in the fall. But the school district spent the entire summer getting ready, buying the equipment, getting the teachers up and running. So starting September, I'm not going to go back on that word and say all of a sudden we're just going to wipe out grades. That's not going to happen. So the only way your child is going to be able to pass is if they're going to be able to get themselves their work done, asking for assistance. If they need assistance, they can be placed in an academic intervention at the high school, middle school, get assistance at the elementary school. Please keep that in mind. There is going to be no magic wand at the end of the year that's going to pass the kids on. It's important to know also at the middle school, those middle school parents, we have readjusted the middle school passing grade. It had been higher. We aligned it with the rest of the district, so it's 65 across the district. So that passing grade is consistent from all the way up to grade 12. So that may help some of the students, but in the end, what we're finding is the students that are attending in-person and virtual classes and doing the work, turning the work in, are for the most part passing. It's the students that are not taking it serious, not motivated to get work done, not motivated to do much, and they're not passing. So I can't fix the motivation. That's something between teacher, between parent, and the student. It's a partnership between those three that need to get that motivation going and getting that work done. At this time, that's the end of my updates, and it's about 28, 29 minutes long, so it's longer than I thought it was going to be. But I think it was important to get this information out. There's going to be some more things that come out. I'll try and get those out to you in hopefully a shorter format. I want to thank you for viewing this. Again, these are my updates and messages from Superintendent Tim Carter for Wilson Central School District. Messages for January 28th, 2020. Stay healthy, stay safe, and stay Wilson strong.